we started thinking about the value add then, is that there's who walked, rode, or traveled the roads, and I'm not talking about the pavement, I'm talking about what ghosts, what people of the past occupied this land that we're traveling through, and what's some of the history. And so this first video is about, we take off from our Turtle Mountain home and travel south towards South Dakota, of course, out of North Dakota. But our travel parallels or follows the Missouri River. And there's just a lot of history to the Missouri River and to this area out here of fur trading and Lewis and Clark and characters like Hugh Glass. Hugh Glass was an adventurer, and his story is amazing. In fact, they made the movie The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio about Hugh Glass. I mean, the guy was mauled by a bear in the area that we're traveling, not far from Lemon, South Dakota, and left for dead, and crawled to the nearest fort, which was 190 miles away. After he was been mauled by a bear, his back was ripped open, chunks of flesh taken out of him, and a broken leg. Other characters like Jerimiah Johnson, who went on a vendetta. He was called the Crow Killer. And his story was also done in a movie, Jerimiah Johnson. These were the people that traveled this land along the Missouri. Lewis and Clark, Sakakawea, we travel over the Missouri several times and along it. So I thought I'd point that out, that in their travels, take a look, think about the history, think about the people that lived there before. I see all of these abandoned houses and stuff all over the Dakotas and wonder, who lived there, and why did they abandon the dream they had, or what happened? So I put a little of this history out in front of this video first, and take the time to watch all the way through it. I know if you have no interest in history or the Dakotas or Badlands National Park, then it's okay. But there's a lot to be said about this. And so episode 1 of America the Beautiful Tour.
We're on our way. Early morning on Tuesday down to Badlands National Park, First National Park.
must be people. Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be beautifully wonderful, exceptional.
There you go. Enjoy the park.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now that we are here at Cruise America, we know about them people.
4.4 miles.
Your senior pass is back in your wallet.
Okay. Visitor Center Lodge is 5 miles. That's a little overlook.
We're after 4 hours.
Trails and well, mostly I want overnight dark skies and sunrise, sunset shots and maybe look
It looks like
for some
castles.
possibilities. Does it look like castles?
Castles.
It looks like castles. And they're all pointy. Look at them.
And so to say that rivers formed it isn't completely true. Because I don't see any water here right now.
The Great Flood, Linda.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's the only way without water that you can have a rapid run each way. Because it looks like something receded rapidly right over this whole entire area. Straight down.
Well, they say that in that on Arches that there was water erosion. That's what Arches said.
But they're not going to give God credit for it. So it's kind of Grand Canyon mini, but more extensive because it covers this wide area.
Yeah, we'll be able to see them go out and figure out vegetables after tomorrow. Ski Point Cliff Show. This might make an interesting sunrise shot, huh?
Or sunset.
Look at that. Possibly. Jerimiah.
Visitors.
So the lodge is first, I think.
Visitors lodge was just like
It's a very mini one.
that's why I say
It's a mini.
it's just all year round. This is the visitors.
Oh, that other one wasn't visitor center.
Visitors center would be closed after 4 anyway, right?
Human history in the Badlands stretches back nearly 12,000 years. The nomadic Lakota Indians arrived in the area from the east, moving with the seasons, following and hunting the huge migrating herds of buffalo.
The buffalo is very central to our culture and to our spirituality. We prayed for the buffalo's well-being because we were so dependent upon it. We didn't pray for our own well-being. It was for the buffalo.
As America expanded westward, the Lakota faced conflicts over land use. The U.S. government formed treaties with some Lakota leaders, defining the boundaries of Lakota land. Repeatedly, though, these treaties were broken as demands for additional Indian lands continued. Across the plains, the buffalo were hunted, nearly to extinction.
The Great Spirit taught us how to live in this land here. When the white man came, he came and put up fences and prevented the buffalo from following the Great Spirit's plan. Whatever happens to the buffalo happens to the Lakota. The Lakota were also confined.
Like other American Indians, the Lakota were forced to cease their traditional ways of life, settle down on reservations, and become farmers and ranchers. Yet some Lakota resisted government efforts to contain them, a resistance that would end in tragedy. By the turn of the 20th century, the lure of land sent many westward, homesteaders seeking opportunities in the wide-open world of the Great Plains.
My parents came here in June 1910. They come from Europe, Czechoslovakia, to New York, but was through the Ellis Island Sea, and from there they come to Milwaukee. He seen this notice in the Czech newspaper, the luscious plains in the Dakota, and that's why he come.
As in other areas being settled, Badlands sodbusters won their 160-acre homesteads in a U.S. government lottery.
I'm looking rather seedy now while holding down my claim, and my victuals are not always of the best. But I'm happy as a clam on the land of Uncle Sam, and in my little old sod shanty on my claim.
Living was hard, and many homesteaders learned quickly that small-scale farming was no way to survive in the Badlands. They abandoned their farms to the blistering summers, the winters that seemed to last forever, and the eternal wind.
And Alta used to get some terrible windstorms in that time too, you see. And boy, when them winds come up, you couldn't see nothing. All this area blew. And it was terrible too.
I have spent many days exploring this region when the thermometer was 112 and there was no water. It is only to the geologist that this place can have any permanent attractions. He can wind his way through the wonderful canyons among some of the grandest ruins in the world, at the foot of which the curious fossil treasures are found.
Before the Lakota lost their land, before the dreams of homesteaders came to an end, the first Badlands fossils of strange, ancient mammals were sent to scientists on the East Coast. These petrified bones contributed to the newly developing science of paleontology, the study of ancient life. Over 150 years later, the work continues. The layered landscape of the Badlands tells the story of powerful geologic forces and climatic change over millions of years. A warm, shallow sea, volcanic eruptions, river deposits of silts and clays, then erosion, a never-ending force that belies the ageless face of the Badlands, wearing away what took millions of years to build.
The Badlands that we see in front of us today, even though they look solid as a rock, they're actually eroding at an incredibly fast rate, about an inch a year. What this means for us is that in 100,000 years, possibly 500,000 years, the Badlands that you now see will be totally gone, which brings home the whole concept that the Earth is a dynamic and changing system.
In this place where sky meets earth, where magnificent storms sweep across vast landscapes, where wind is a constant, where the environment is simply harsh, a tapestry of vibrant life exists. In the Badlands, adaptation is fundamental to existence. Plants and animals are able to cope with fierce and extreme conditions. Cold winters, hot summers, and precipitation that varies wildly from year to year. The mixed grass prairie of the Badlands may at times look dry and lifeless, but in its vast, tangled roots, nutrients are stored. Occasional prairie fires replenish nutrients to the soil, aiding the prairie's health. Animals that rely on the grassland for food and shelter also help sustain it. Bison, or buffalo, icon of the American West, once again thrive on the prairie. These large animals churn up the soil, allowing moisture to be absorbed. Their fur catches seeds, which then scatter across the prairie. A smaller animal that is also critical to the Badlands prairie ecosystem is the prairie dog. Like bison, prairie dogs stir up the soil, rejuvenating the surface so grass may grow. Prairie dogs' long, winding burrows are beneficial to other species. The burrowing owl, 13-lined ground squirrel, and the black-footed ferret live in abandoned prairie dog homes. The prairie dog is the preferred food for the black-footed ferret. As ranching and agriculture expanded in the Badlands area, many prairie dog colonies were wiped out. The decline of prairie dogs caused the near extinction of the native black-footed ferret. Put on the endangered species list in 1973, captive bred ferrets have been reintroduced into the park. At night, in prairie dog towns, scientists monitor the nocturnal ferret population.
We're coming to the prairie dog towns because the black-footed ferret is obligate species to the prairie dog, meaning that they need the prairie dog for prey and for denning cover. Ferrets have a very distinctive eye shine, which is a bright emerald green. It's a charismatic species, but it's one that a lot of visitors aren't going to see just because of the difficulties of getting out here and seeing it. But if a lot of visitors, they know that there's ferrets here, I think that adds to the experience of coming to the park.
Other native species also affected by changes in land use over time have been brought back to the park through reintroduction programs. The swift fox and bighorn sheep have both seen a revival in the Badlands. Preserving native ecosystems, plants and animals together, is one of the most important missions for a national park. But restoration of the entire Badlands ecosystem is impossible. Although a vast expanse of land, the park cannot support the large predators that once roamed here, the prairie wolf and the grizzly bear. Instead, efforts are focused on plant restoration to support the prairie wildlife of the 21st century. Now, as in times past, the Badlands is a destination for those seeking solace, science, curiosities of nature, and the chance to experience a place out of the ordinary.
Desolate? Forbidding? There was never a country that in its good moments was more beautiful. Even in drought or dust storm or blizzard, it is the reverse of monotonous once you have submitted to it with all the senses. You don't get out of the wind, but learn to lean and squint against it. You don't escape sky and sun, but wear them in your eyeballs and on your back. You become acutely aware of yourself. The world is very large, the sky even larger, and you are very small.
The Badlands is not a postcard of stone. It is a land woven of time and space, knotted with the twists and turns of human use, and balanced with the fragile touch of wilderness. It is the landscape's slow dance, moving to the rhythm of the wind.